I got this text from my friend, a screenshot of a TikTok with a picture of a speed limit sign and text that reads, King of Prussia, 14 MPH speed limit sign, thumbs up emoji, fire emoji. Now, King of Prussia sounds like the name of a UNSC ship in Halo, but it's actually a city, or really more like a census-designated area in the state of Pennsylvania. It's most well known for being home to a mall, which is self-titled King of Prussia Mall, fourth biggest mall in America, about 30 minutes away from Philadelphia by car. Despite its physical distance from the actual city of Philadelphia, it's a pretty significant place in the greater metropolitan area. Something I've noticed with Philly is that it doesn't have a lot of flagship stores. I'm not saying there's nothing there. If you head to Walnut Street, you'll find some pretty nice stuff. Apple Store, Tiffany's, even a Herman Miller store, which just opened. But there is no Louis Vuitton store, there is no Hermes store, no Balenciaga.
He has no Balenciaga, no Supreme, no Rick Owens.
There's a lot of notable blind spots for a city of Philadelphia's size, sixth biggest in the country. And that's because a lot of these brands put their store for the Philadelphia area in King of Prussia, rather than Philly proper, though I'm not sure why. The mall is owned by the Simon Property Group, who probably also owns your local mall, and also the dead mall in your hometown, and a couple more malls in places you've never heard of. This place is like the opposite of dead, though. It's seemingly always packed, even on a weekday. And that's because there's a lot of stuff here. Just about every brand that's possible to see in a mall is represented here, usually with a well above average size storefront. It's also a really well-run and maintained facility. It's clean, there's not a ton of vacant storefronts, and while there are a notable amount of incidents that make the news, I've never personally experienced anything crazy. Although based on the heavy security and police presence, they're trying pretty hard to keep things in order. After all, this is the flagship mall for the Simon Property Group, the biggest mall owners in America, and they seem to take it pretty seriously. It tends to get things that typical malls don't. It's going to be home to one of the first Netflix houses, which is like, I'm not really quite sure what this is. There is a theater, but it seems to be dominated by gimmicky pop-up experiences and mini-golf. We'll probably figure out what this is on an episode of Defunct Land in like 5 years. And Italy is also coming soon. It's even home to an elusive IMAX 70mm theater. I saw Dune 2 here, Oppenheimer, Nosferatu. Just don't expect the icy machine to be working. There's also a Lockheed Martin, across the street from the theater. Not sure why, but I bet your mall doesn't have that. Nice malls have a Louis Vuitton store, that's pretty routine, but this mall has 2 of them. All this is to say that it's not only a nice mall, it's a decently well-known one, and therefore place as well. Celebrities are spotted here frequently. I saw it make an appearance in a Trap Lore Ross video, and it was even referenced in an episode of Daredevil Born Again a few months ago.
It's actually right outside of the city. The Angelos in King of Prussia.
I not only instantly recognized the name of the location, I was able to pretty quickly figure out exactly where it is. It's located not at the actual mall, but next door on the other side of the highway at what is called the Village.
And he was like, oh, you need to come to the Village. And I was just like, the Village? So I'm like, what the is that? You know, it sounds crazy.
Or at least that's what I always thought it was called until I started writing this. This is actually the King of Prussia Town Center, which is located inside the Village at Valley Forge. What's going on with this naming here? It makes no sense. How can the thing at place be located inside the thing at different place? And why does it need 2 names that are that long anyway? This is a 125-acre area, not that big. In fact, the signs are like back to back. We don't need to be doing this. Anyway, this place is kind of weird. It's a very corporate, artificial attempt at mixed-use urbanism on a microscopic scale. The official term for this type of development is lifestyle center, but it's basically just a mall cosplaying as a small town. The town center part is just retail and restaurants. I'm pretty sure every one of those restaurants is a chain establishment. There's a grocery store, there's an REI, then on the perimeter there's apartments and townhouses. There's even a hospital, and while the area is walkable, it's small and it's near nothing other than the intersection of like 3 highways. So you need a car to get here and survive here. Their website touts the Village as an alternative to Center City, as in Center City, Philadelphia, which, yeah, okay man, whatever you say. Anyway, based off the angle of the photo in that TikTok, I also had a pretty good idea of the exact spot. Right off the I-76 exit, facing the LA Fitness and parking garage, with the Wegmans to the left out of frame. Village Drive. I've driven on this road plenty of times, but I've never noticed the speed limit sign, and I thought I definitely would remember it if I did. 14 imperial miles per hour. Notably strange speed limit, if you're, familiar with speed limits. I thought maybe it's an edited image or was removed a long time ago, but I found the exact coordinates on Google Maps Street View, and sure enough, there it is. 14 miles per hour. I just somehow never noticed it before. Of course I found it really funny, not only that it actually exists, but also in a somewhat nearby place that I've been to, but it began to dig at me. 14. Why 14? Why not 15 or even 10? It's maybe not the most pressing issue, but it is inherently perplexing considering that every other speed limit sign I can ever recall seeing in my life ended with a 5 or a 0. Increments of 5 make sense. It's clean to read on an analog speedometer, and it's you have to draw the line somewhere, otherwise we'd live in a world of madness. It was odd to the point where I was still in slight disbelief, even in spite of the Google Street View. The night I received that text, I was pretty bored and needed some groceries anyway, so I decided to set course for the King of Prussia town center, located at the heart of the village at Valley Forge, and investigate it firsthand. As I made my way there, I started to question myself. Maybe this was all an elaborate hoax. Maybe the sign was gone. The Street View was almost a year old. And more importantly, what would I even do with it if I found it? Doubt began to fill my mind, and as I approached Village Drive, my faith started to waver. Especially when this guy with Texas plates decided to have a stroke in front of me, what is he doing? This is a wide open road, the speed limit is 40, we're going 20. He can't even pick a lane. This can't be normal driving down there, right? And why is he even up here? That's really far away by car. Sorry for the tangent, but there's no way I could use this footage and not say something. As I made the turn onto Village Drive, trying my best not to rage out at this Texas-plated Volkswagen Atlas, Cross, Sport, I couldn't see the sign, but this was definitely the place. Then, in an instant, almost hidden by this tree, there it was, speed limit 14. Not wanting to draw any unwanted attention to myself late at night, I played it cool and proceeded to park nearby. Then I walked, for a pretty long time in a somewhat awkward fashion. This being a lifestyle center in a suburban area, once you get to the outskirts, the sidewalks are sort of like what you would find in Silent Hill. It was as if this one existed solely for letting me get closer to the sign. Which I did. Here it is, 100% real. After getting my silly photo and video of the sign to send to my friend and triumphantly post on Twitter, I just couldn't escape how much of an oddity it was. While I proved its existence, I was no closer to understanding the reason why such a strange speed limit sign would be deployed here. So after verifying my own sanity and checking again that it did indeed say 14, I headed back home and did some research. Now it turns out there is a very famous place where the 14-mile-per-hour speed limit runs rampant. It's actually the happiest place on Earth, or at least one of them. It's a chain establishment. Anaheim, California, Disneyland. Now I'm in Philadelphia, at least right now, so for me Disneyland is not really a Toyota destination, it's more of a Boeing one. Or I guess Airbus these days. So I couldn't make it out there to personally verify this or get footage or anything, but they do it, it's well documented, and a ton of people have noticed it. Based on forum posts, they've been doing this for over 20 years. So, maybe the sign at the census-designated area could be written off as some goofy one-off thing, but for a company as powerful and cold and calculated as Disney, that's obviously not going to be the case. They're doing this for a reason, probably a good one. There are an endless amount of posts about this, and I saw a ton of theories. A lot of them revolve around this idea that something happens at 15 that would take control away from Disney. It's because the tram goes 14, since 15 and up requires seatbelts. A really common one was this idea that 15 and up can only be enforced by the police, or would require police on site to monitor, but at 14, Disney can enforce it themselves. Some say it's because 15 would require speed bumps. Then there's some who claim the tram actually goes 15 and 14 prevents guests in their cars from passing the tram. Yeah, I can guarantee it's not that. Another very silly yet persistent idea I saw was that 15 can be misheard as 50 over the tram intercom, so that's why they do 14. Someone says they heard a story where someone was speeding and tried to get out of the ticket by claiming they heard 50. But by far my favorite came from this 400 views text-to-speech YouTube short.
Why does Disneyland have a 14 miles per hour speed limit? Walt Disney himself wanted everything to be unique and enchanting, right down to the speed limits. The number 14 was chosen to make guests do a double take and add to the park's whimsical charm.
Oh my god, it was just good old Walt being silly and having a fun time. Of course, that explains it.
If you know another reason for the 14 miles per hour speed limit, then comment below.
Okay, so they don't actually know either. So most of these sound like urban legends, or maybe something a worker or parent would say to a kid without actually knowing the real answer, and then those kids grew up and became Disney adults and confidently regurgitate that. Just a theory. I think the seatbelt one sounds somewhat plausible, but that, along with many others, don't hold up, because I saw in this video that the posted speed limit in Disney World's parking lot is actually just a normal 15. Now, it's possible that the notoriously strict state of California has some unique law that the notoriously not very strict state of Florida doesn't, and that's why they need the 14 only in Disneyland to circumvent some kind of legality, maybe one of the ones people theorize about. But then that still wouldn't help to explain why there's one in a shopping center in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. Having hit a dead end with the Disneyland thing, my next method of attack was to try and figure out where they got it from. Like, who's making these? Again, it's so odd, it's not like a standard thing, so maybe they all come from one place. I could imagine an operation as big as Disney commissioning hundreds of these, but one sign in a lifestyle center outside of Philadelphia? Unlikely, someone's gotta be selling that off the shelf. And yeah, they are. StopSignsAndMore.com. This place is amazing. There are some really choice signs on here. A lot of good dad humor. I love this one. The dog ones are all really good. I'm a big fan of no animals allowed, except for service animals specifically trained to aid a disabled person. You can get a 151 MPH speed limit sign, or you could go for 7.5. And of course, 14. At $39.95, I was very tempted to buy one, but instead I decided to do the next best thing and make my own, in the form of a sticker, which you can go get at my sticker store, shop.digitalghetto.net. This is not print-to-order stuff that I made with the JPEG from the sign website. I recreated it myself in Adobe Illustrator and stock and ship it myself, along with all the other stickers you'll find on there. Free Range Mutts has become a fan favorite, but don't sleep on Joey Land's signature or Authentic French Slop, both of which were inspired by Costco. You'll also find more stickers inspired by my previous videos, such as the iPod video or the Tobre mouse. Outside of liking and subscribing, this is the best way to help support the channel and future video production. Links will be everywhere. I'll make it inescapable. So after I exercised some self-restraint by not ordering a 14 MPH sign, I scrolled down and found my answer. 14 MPH speed limit signs get noticed, make drivers pay attention, slow down, and improve safety. They even mentioned Disneyland, along with Aspen, Colorado, which I immediately Googled, and yep, that's the reason. They had a lot of people speeding and came up with the idea of choosing a weird speed limit number in an attempt to get people's attention and make them more likely to slow down. Okay, so that answers the question. The concept here is actually to get people's attention and increase the likelihood of compliance and attentive driving. If you've watched any urban planning type of videos, you'll know that there's actually a term for this: traffic calming. The concept describes techniques that physically or mentally cause car drivers to slow down and pay more attention, specifically in dense areas that see more mixed traffic such as pedestrians and cyclists. Usually this is achieved by narrowing the road space, either physically, optically, or both. Pretty simple concept, right? Wide open, empty highway, you're gonna feel like you can go 155. Narrow, busy city street, you naturally feel like you can't go fast. Well, you know, for most people. Typically, I think of this as a European concept, or at least they're a lot more aggressive and successful with it in a way that feels more true to the term traffic calming. Compared to the typical Western European city street, American city streets can kind of look like highways sometimes, and that's because the car is typically given the highest priority when it comes to street design here. In America, the most common methods of traffic calming would be stuff like speed bumps, raised pedestrian walkways, and changes in road texture, like cobblestone or brick. That's not to say that there aren't attempts at more outside-the-box thinking here in the US, it's just not as elegant as what you might see in Europe. Personally, this wouldn't slow me down at all, I'd just start doing autocross on it. Signs are a part of traffic calming, even in Europe, and they absolutely can and do work. Flashing school zone signs and speed limit signs with radars in them that display your speed in real time are both examples of signage that can be very effective in calming car traffic. But I think there's a very large gap, like a planetary-size gap, between the concept of something like a school zone sign, which everyone knows carries super harsh penalties, and this, at least in my opinion, absolutely unhinged concept of playing subtle psychological games with the driver by using a weird number as the speed limit. There's something almost paradoxical about it, because it's simultaneously the lowest effort, laziest thing you could do, making no changes to the road, just putting up a $40 speed limit sign with an atypical number and hoping that calms traffic. But at the same time, I have to imagine that a ton of mental work was put into theory crafting and then implementing something like this. I have to wonder where the person who decided this was the way to go in the village even got the idea from. Disneyland? And that's before considering what it took to get everyone else involved on board with it. So then we end up at the final question. Does this technique work? In terms of getting people to pay attention to something otherwise extremely mundane, yeah, definitely. You've got people taking pictures and now I'm making a video. It's being noticed, but does it actually make traffic slower or safer? I'm not convinced at all. As I mentioned, I've probably driven past the King of Prussia 14 MPH sign 20 plus times and never even noticed it. Worse yet, small self-snitch, I definitely don't go through there at 14, or even 15. The flow of traffic is like 25 to 35 plus. I mean, look at it, it's wide open 2 lanes. Once inside the shopping area, people do slow down, but on this specific stretch of Village Drive, literally no one is coming close to obeying this, and that's if they're even aware of it. It's barely visible where it's placed. In the process of filming this video, I ended up walking down just about every street in the village, and found only 2 other speed limit signs, both of which were actually 25. And ironically, I consider both of these to be placed in spots which are more deserving of a lower speed limit. And that's when it hit me. I think I know exactly why the 14 MPH sign is here, and only here. It's because this stretch of Village Drive, where the majority of traffic enters the village from, is a really bad piece of urban planning and road design. One of the entrances is a yield off a 40 MPH road, and most of the traffic is coming fresh off of I-76, an interstate highway. Like I mentioned, this stretch of Village Drive itself is a wide open, straight shot 2-lane road. People are coming off of fast roads onto this road, which looks the same and is easy to go fast on, which is an issue when it quickly culminates in an often backed up 4-way stop with crosswalks. Having spent an extended period of time here as a pedestrian myself, potentially longer than any other person, I can tell you that it wasn't a pleasant experience. People are visibly coming in way too hot, there's drivers that don't see the stop sign until it's a little too late, causing honking and general confusion at the intersection. It also felt like I really needed to be alert to cross at the 4-way stop. A lot of people are treating this road as if it were a highway, and that's because outside of this feeble median, there are no traffic calming measures here that influence or force drivers to slow down. In my mind, the 14 MPH sign is an admission of guilt, an acknowledgement that there's an issue, but very little willingness to actually solve it. Whoever came up with this, as well as their supporters, are making a lot of assumptions. The first being that people inherently respect a speed limit. Spoiler, they definitely don't. And second, that they're going to understand and unravel that the usage of a weird number is meant to make them understand the importance of respecting the speed limit in this specific instance. There are plenty of examples of what I guess could be called aggressive speed limit signs that are spiced up with warnings or messages. Stuff like speed enforced by aircraft or speed electronically timed. Most of these tend to be toothless threats, believe me, I would know, but they almost certainly get at least marginally more compliance than a plain speed limit sign. With the 14, it's just a plain speed limit sign. It's not making a threat, it's not really doing anything, it doesn't tell the driver what it wants. It's a passive-aggressive speed limit sign at best. With the exception of maybe a 6 or 7 MPH speed limit, simply changing the sign to a funny, uncommon number doesn't suddenly make it more likely to be taken seriously. In fact, I looked into this, and in the state of PA where this sign resides, 14 doesn't even qualify as a real recognized speed limit. According to Section 3362.0, Title 75, the officially recognized speed limits are 25, 35, 55, 65, and 70, except when a special hazard exists that requires lower speed for compliance with Section 3361, which to me sounds like school zones, which are 15, and potentially construction zones. This is not just a Pennsylvania thing either. Aspen ran into this issue. The federal government's Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices says that displayed speed limits must be in multiples of 5 mph. After a long day of filming in the village, I decided to head to a bakery chain I enjoy in a nearby strip mall and thought about everything that had transpired. As stupid and flawed as I think the logic behind it may be, I was pretty satisfied to learn the true reason behind the 14 mph speed limit, and that it's not a totally random thing. Other places use it and have considered using it. I also felt very confident in my theory about why this specific one I found was placed there, having personally witnessed the issues with Village Drive. I walked out of the bakery and headed back to my car, and then I saw it. Speed limit 13. 13. Why 13? Why not 15 or even 14? Maybe we do live in a world of madness after all.